Hello and welcome to Stage Perspective. My name is Charles Peters and our guest today is Brenda Adelman. Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, sure, yeah. Um, my whole idea was starting this, and I sort of do this every time I talk to people, is I have been talking to people that I've worked with, which is what sort of sparked this. I looked around a room and I went, oh my gosh, I've worked with all these people in some capacity. And you and I did a show together. I think we've only worked together. We did two shows together.
Sunset Park,
I totally
Sunset
forgot
Park,
about the second show.
and Skin
How
Deep.
could I forget about the second
Oh
show?
my
So
God!
it's my brain. But we did
You
a show.
played
Yeah, we
brother
did
and
Sunset
sister,
Park. Um,
brother and
and
sister, and brother and sister-in-law. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And then we did Skin Deep. Uh, and In the first one, we weren't really the focus. I mean, we were supporting, but we were definitely had a lot of fun on stage. I felt it was unfortunate they took out some of the language because we had all that where we cursed at each other at some point. So
Oh, we had full-on fights in that
yeah,
first one.
yeah,
But
it
you
was.
remember you also almost choked. I just
Hmm.
remember that. Remember?
Yes, I do.
Raw
That's
food,
a
eating on
very,
stage.
hmm very prominent memory because I ate an entire half of a sandwich on stage during that scene. And the sandwich was like this big because she stacked it up. And it, I was in the middle of it and I had a line and the bread, I guess, was dry. And I was like trying to do the
I
line.
know, and we were
And you,
backstage like, oh my God, what's happening?
and
Oh,
you, lovely you, when you got out on stage, you went, would you like some water? I was like,
thank
yes.
God. Thank God there was water there.
Yeah, we had a working sink, and I remember having to get up and help Carm at one point. Uh, she was having such trouble trying to open something or make the sound or go, "Hey, you want me to help you?" So
Right, I'd be
yeah,
backstage hearing that. It was so funny.
it was
Yeah,
fun.
that was so wonderful, though. That was a really wonderful experience.
I did. I had a really good time doing that show. Skin Deep was a good show too, but it felt clunky to me in places.
Well,
Not. I
except
mean,
of
just
course,
yeah,
I loved it because I had the lead, and that character
absolutely.
for me was
Yeah,
like so amazing.
yeah.
That was amazing. I love that
Yeah.
character.
Yeah. I don't know what it was about that show. It was a good show. There was nothing really wrong with it, but I didn't feel as connected in the second show in Skin Deep,
Yeah, I think it's because it was like there were two storylines,
maybe.
so it was like
Yeah.
you weren't on stage as much necessarily, or like you could come in and out.
Yeah.
Who
I don't know
knows?
who knows. But we had a
Who
lot
the
of fun on
freaking
both
knows?
shows.
Who
Yeah.
the freaking knows? But I love Skin Deep. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you are originally from New York, right? Is that where you grew up?
I am from Brooklyn.
Yeah, I couldn't tell, but no, you were great on at Sunset Park because, and actually in both of those plays, because you are from Brooklyn, and especially in Sunset Park is like a Brooklyn accent. I mean, I guess a suburb or what's
It's
another
Brooklyn.
borough,
It's a
in New
borough.
York. It's
Yeah, it was
very
funny.
close.
I can't remember if it was there or in Skin Deep because Skin Deep was in Queens, but I
Hmm.
remember us doing like a Q&A for like Theater Week in San Diego and someone in the audience saying, how long did it take you to learn that accent? It was so good. And I was like, my whole life. That was funny.
So when did you get involved in theater? Did you start young? Did you start doing that? And if so, what started that for you? Because I know for me, like I went and saw a lot of theater. I watched a lot of things when I was a kid, and that was
Hmm.
a big influence, and especially like the classic films and musicals. But how about you? How did you get started?
That's so true. I think what we do when we're little affects us so much. I also watched all those classic films with my mother, but she also, growing up in New York, we would go from Brooklyn to Manhattan, and I'd see Broadway plays from the time I was like 3 years old. I saw like
Wow.
Ethel Merman and Carol Channing and like Danny Kaye, and it just had such an influence on me. And I remember when I was young, I can't remember, I was young though, seeing Zero, I think it was Zero Mostel in Fiddler on the Roof.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a girl that played his daughter, and my mom we'd always go back to the back door.
Hmm.
And I remember the girl coming out who played his young daughter, and she was like an adult, and it was like magic to me. I was like, you can be any age, and
Yeah.
like you're on stage and you're someone else. And it really made an impression on me. And then just living in Manhattan too for many years, I got to see so many great shows and so many great one-person shows that I had no idea I'd be creating a one-person show. But I saw Truman Capote. I saw Kathy Bates in Night Mother.
Mm.
I saw Lynn Redgrave in Shakespeare for My Father. Like, these all informed me, not knowing what would happen in my life later on or that I would create
Right.
a show.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. Did you ever do any like musical theater? I mean, as big as an influence as that was for you?
I didn't, and I don't think anyone wants to hear me sing. They probably would run the other way. But I
Yeah.
have to say, to be fair, I can hold a tune if I remember to breathe and I'm not nervous.
Yeah.
But but I did start an acting school in New
Uh-huh.
York when I was in 5th grade. It was singing and acting and tap dancing. It was like an old time like vaudevillian
Right.
teacher. I remember the big thing was Elliot Gould was one of his students. But
Uh,
what was super cool is I did sing. I remember I had a solo, and we got to perform in Carnegie Recital Hall when I was in
wow.
5th grade.
That's
The
cool.
recital hall, Carnegie
Yeah.
Recital, and this big stage. And I remember, oh, it was so funny. So I had this solo, and I was always singing to the teacher. Charlie Lowe was his name. I was always singing to the teacher in my, rehearsals. And then I get up on stage, and he puts a young little boy there for me to sing to. And I was, 5th grade, but I did it. And then I remember hearing the applause. Like, there really was nothing like it. My
Yeah.
friend who was on stage with me, her sisters came, and they were like, "Oh my God!" And it was amazing. Like, to think that I could just entertain and make people so happy. Like, it just felt great. So I started there, and then took acting classes later on, and then
Yeah.
worked in crew. Like, I was in stage crew in high
Mhm.
school, and then in
Yeah.
college, I was I was more doing the back
Yeah.
backstage.
Did you do shows in high school and college?
No,
No.
I did.
Just running crew and stuff.
Yeah, the truth was, like a lot of girls, I got really self-conscious and was afraid to kind of be visible and stuff like that. But I
Yeah.
loved the theater. So I really only I started acting actually after college. I was living in Europe after college. My brother had written and was directing a play called Unter Weisen zum Terror. And I started out as an assistant stage manager, and then someone dropped out like last minute. And so I started acting, and we went on tour, and I just fell in love with it. And then when I came back to New York, I started studying seriously and getting into theater companies and acting.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. What took you to Europe? How did you
My
get there?
brother, my
Was it
brother
just
lived,
like you just moved there to live there, or?
my brother had moved to Europe. I don't know how many years before that. He's 5 years older than me. So I
Yeah.
used to go regularly to visit
Oh,
him.
okay.
He was in Vienna. And so after college, I can't remember what happened, but I decided to just go for the summer. And then when I was there for the summer, like before I'd start working, he had this play that was running,
Huh.
and he said, "I would love you to be," because he knew I studied crew and stuff like that. He's like, "I would love you to be stay on and be an assistant stage manager." I was like, when am I going to have this experience? A lot of my life is kind of like that, just
Yeah.
saying yes to the opportunities
Yes.
that are in front of me. But yet
Mhm.
I'm also, like all my training always leads me to that
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's how I ended up there.
Was you consider that like your first like real role on stage, like a real thing when you took that over?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, in college, I interned at a radio station and also at
Hmm.
MTV, but actually, whoops, at the radio station, I remember I was also, editing and stuff like that. And one of the people who was like my mentor, so it was an internship, uh, he put us together. There was this women's group, Rhythm Productions, and there was this men's group, I think it was Unity, Creative Unity, and he asked us to do a show.
Hmm.
And I had never acted before, but we did like a mock morning show.
Yeah.
And I was pretty shy back then, and I guess I just wowed everybody. And I still remember him saying, "Oh my God, who is this?" It's like I came out of myself when I was acting in that radio
Yeah.
show.
That's cool. That's cool. Did you now I know you haven't been in San Diego that long. Did you move here like in 2005 or 2008
Oh
or
no,
something? Or
no,
it
I
was
moved to San Diego like 2013, I think, or
okay.
2014.
Yeah. And you were just having like a life change thing, and that's what brought you here, right? You were just kind of like,
Yeah, well, my ex partner and I adopted a foster child, and her brother was down here.
ah, that's right.
And so we thought it would be good, and he was 12, and we thought it'd be nice to have him around family.
Hmm.
So I thought I was going to stop acting, kind of like just come down here. At first, I thought I would go back to LA and do auditions and stuff like that. But then when I realized how much traffic there was like, nope, that's not going to happen. But then, of course, the acting community here really took me in with my one-woman show because I
Yeah.
got into the Fringe Festival, the first annual Fringe Festival.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Did you live in LA for a period of time, or were
Yeah, I
you there
can't
for a
believe
while?
we don't know any of this because I feel
Well,
like when we worked together,
I
no,
know.
we don't. We never talked about any of this.
We did. We talked about some of it, but I don't remember the Los Angeles thing because I lived in LA for like 15 years, and yeah, I moved there and a long time ago and I lived there for years and years. Yeah. Hmm.
I didn't know that. That's
See,
so funny
it
because
goes
we
both
worked together.
ways.
We had months, 5 weeks of rehearsal and then shows. I lived in LA a long time. I moved to LA from New York City in '95
Hmm.
uh, because I fell in love with someone and for the acting,
Yeah.
and then who lived in California, and then I moved to Sedona, Arizona in 2004, which is interesting because I
Hmm.
was acting wise a big fish in a little pond. So that was
Yeah.
really interesting going from New York, LA to Sedona. I ended up
Yeah.
acting a lot. Like it was crazy. I got the domestic violence community really took me under their wings to become a keynote because I had already developed my show in New York, in LA. And then I moved back to LA. And then and then San Diego.
Yeah. Wow. I don't really think we ever talked about Los Angeles. Where'd you live in LA?
I lived a few places. When I first moved there, I was downtown, in a high rise,
Hmm.
and then and then I was in Marina Del Rey,
Oh,
and
okay.
then I was in Santa Monica.
Okay. Yeah. So you
Where
mentioned
were you?
what?
Where were you?
Oh, me? I lived in Hollywood proper. I lived like a
Oh,
block, 2 blocks from Hollywood.
cool.
I had done a scouting mission like months earlier before I moved there and just walked around and looked, and then I happened to find this place. And these people that we moved in with were so beautiful and wonderful. They were like, "Come on in. You can use the furniture that's in in the apartment till your
Nice.
stuff gets here." It was really nice. And then
Where
I moved.
did you live? Where did you go from? Where did you move there from?
Oh, from Texas. I grew up in Arlington, Texas. You knew that. You just forgot.
Maybe. I mean, it's been a few years since
Yeah.
we did the show, but
Yeah.
that's where I feel like I didn't retain that.
And then I moved to Eagle Rock, which is like situated between
I
uh
don't know where Eaton Rock
yeah,
is.
a lot
They
of
have
people
that
don't.
college. Well, they have
Yeah.
that college there that I did
Hmm.
some student films at.
Glendale and Pasadena kind of sits in there. It's a little community. It's been there like since the 20s.
Yeah, it's
And
nice.
then from there I moved to North Hills, bought a townhome and lived in North Hills, and then moved to
I
Sherman
mean,
Oaks.
where's
Nor-
North Hill?
North Hills is off of like Sepulveda and Devonshire. It's like down that
Okay,
way. It's just below Granada Hills. They still actually refer to it as Sepulveda. And it's
right.
like, no, it hasn't been Sepulveda in like 40 years. You need to change all the mail would come and it would say Sepulveda. I was like, that's not correct. It's North Hills now
Well,
because I
yeah. Well,
changed it.
when I was in Playa del Rey, we had bought
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's where I could afford. And then, of course, and then moving to Sedona, got a nice house from the condo,
Imagine,
but then
yeah.
we went back to renting. Hmm?
That's the trick is buy here, let it accrue, and then move out of this state. You can buy a mansion.
Exactly. Exactly.
So your one woman show, we don't have to go like super deep into that, but tell me,
Let me give you the pitch. It's
tell
90
me,
seconds.
tell me the pitch, and then tell me how you got started doing that. What made you want to do that?
You still haven't, right?
I have seen it. Yeah, I have
Where'd
seen
you
it.
see it?
I've just seen
Where?
little bits and pieces of it. I've never seen it full. I've
Yeah,
not seen
never
it
saw the
live.
show.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I grew up in Brooklyn with a Jewish wannabe Italian father who taught me how to drive a Cadillac at 6 and how to shoot a gun at 10.
Mm.
A bohemian artist mom who took me traveling with her all over the world and read Shakespeare to me from the time I was 3 years old as a bedtime story.
Mhm.
Big characters, big laughs, big love. And then, and this is true as it all is, in 1995, my father, who I adored, shot and killed my mother. And then within a month moved in with and then married my aunt, my mother's sister. So since this is an acting show, if anyone's familiar with Hamlet, in Hamlet, his father is killed by his uncle and his uncle marries his mother.
Yeah.
And I knew that that was something similar to what happened in my life, which made me feel not so alone. But Hamlet is about death and revenge, and my life is about the power of forgiveness. And so is my one woman show. And so the show came about because I was so devastated by what happened in my life and so depressed. And I was in I got back into acting about a year after my mom died in LA, a top class. And I just got guided a few years. I was hiding. I wasn't sharing anything. I was kind of hiding behind the characters I would play. I would be afraid to be emotional. And I just had this inner guidance that was like, you need to tell your story. And there was a storytelling exercise in class, and I was terrified. This a few years later, terrified. And it was a 100-person class, but the voice that told me you need to tell your story was bigger than my fear. And so I put a first version of what's now my critically acclaimed show up on stage. And not only did I not get judgment, but I got a standing ovation for like 10 minutes. I know the journal recently, I was like, oh my God. And then I had like 4 people come over to me and said, oh my God, something in what I did helped release them from some shame, from some stories that happened in their lives. And then a director in that class wanted to direct me. So it kind of had a snowball effect. And so that's how the show, never even planned to have it as a show. But then when I saw the effect it had on other people, and then for me as a form of self-expression was so incredible. And then I did a lot of inner work so that I wasn't just, so within about a year or so of that, I had the show produced at a small theater in Los Angeles. And, I'm a comedic actress too. People would laugh, people would cry, but then I'd go home and be absolutely depressed and miserable. And so I took years off, got a master's degree in spiritual psychology, kind of worked my and moved from, okay, now that this has happened, how do I thrive versus just survive? And then I came back strong with the show after that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been going strong. I mean, especially in the last like 3, 4, 5 years, you started it
For
up
COVID,
again.
yeah.
Yeah. And before COVID. Yeah. And you ended up, I mean, you've gone to, I mean, you moved here, you talked about beginning in the Fringe Festival, but you've also done a bunch of other Fringe festivals. You've done some other, conventions and things. And it just goes on. What was that you're showing us here? Show that again.
All right, I'm going to show you 2 things.
Yeah.
This is my show. Okay. This is an hour. This is
Right.
Brooklyn Hamlet.
We'll put that up so we can actually see that better.
And then this one was Divas in Danger. So what happened was the last few years, someone introduced me to someone who has a storytelling event in Long Beach. And, I basically said what I said to you, what the show is about. And and to make a long story short, not only was I a guest at her events, but then she put together Divas in Danger from one of the other people who was at her event, who's also a critically acclaimed award-winning storyteller. And so we toured for about a year and a half. And with them, I got a 4th country, Mexico, and we just traveled all over. It was fantastic. And that was a 35-minute version of my show with them doing the same amount of time. Escape, betrayal, and budget plastic surgery. That's what that was.
There you go. And your show, I mean, stands alone. I mean, as far as watching the show, what are you showing us there? That's your mother, right?
That is my mother, and that is how I start the show dressed as her with the blonde wig, and it's kind of like a story, like to life. Yeah. Yeah.
You inhabit the characters, I mean, as you tell the story, obviously. So and the idea of forgiveness and the emotion of the story it just sits there. But I know in some instances also, it's not reliant on this. I realize, but you talk, you do talk backs, you teach afterwards, or you do a talk afterwards. So, and
Yeah,
that's,
whenever I can, I
yeah,
do that.
yeah, and that's very powerful. And I know a lot of people have booked you for that. The other cool thing that I know that you've done is you have been uh, really, I don't know how to help and inspiring others to do the same thing, to take their story and say, how do I do this? Tell me a little bit about that, just that process as it relates to you, and also as it relates to someone, like if you were sitting down just to tell the viewers, you know, how, if they wanted to sit down, give me a broad stroke of writing a one person show.
Well, let me tell you, this is the newest iteration of my work. It's not because my message is about the power of forgiveness.
Yes.
And people are so moved. I can't even remember when I first started working with other people, but I realized that like I have this deep desire to change the world for the better.
Yeah.
And if I can help people understand, like even through what I lived through, that it can be a creative, expressive way for me to be who I am in the world, and I can help people learn to forgive, then other people have their own messages that I can't help people with, you know, going through child abuse. Like the stories I have heard, I'm honored because of all my students. I help them because who knew that when I went and got a master's in spiritual psychology for me, that I'd be able to use these tools to help other people. So I've been coaching since 2005. So basically I combine the storytelling, crafting like a pro, with the healing process of it, so that people take their, I see my clients take their power back all the time. So my process is different than just like, these are the skills you need, you know, be a good storyteller, beginning, middle, and end, you know, get your craft of acting. I really love it when I'm helping people dive into the shame. Like for me, oh my God, I felt so damaged because of what happened in my family. The last thing I wanted to do was put it on stage, but I've seen so much from, you know, I've performed for domestic violence survivors, women prisoners, youth at risk. Like I see how much they get their power back, they get self-love back. So that I deal with the healing from your story while you're sharing it. Also, because that first run I had, I was so depressed after. I don't believe in just be vulnerable, just tell your story, just put everything on stage. It's not indulgent. I tell people, you're not being indulgent for indulgence sake. You are healing yourself to the very core and sharing what you learned with the audience. So it's not preachy either. And then as a bonus, you get to use all your talent. For me, it's not singing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you started a website. I mean, you started like doing webinars and stuff not too long ago. I
Yeah,
mean, that was like 5 years ago. I remember when you started that, and and it was
right.
just, it was really slow, and you just like had a couple of clients, and now you have many, many, many clients. And I've read some of your successes over in time, that you've said this person has done this show and got into this, you know, festival, or they
I
did this or did
know,
this.
it's
It's really fascinating.
amazing.
And you're doing exactly, I mean, props to you. I mean, you're doing exactly what you set out to do, which is helping people to healing the world a little bit at a time, you know, and hopefully
Here's
those
it.
people go out and heal the world, and it just continues and fans out. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm driven. You know, I learned everything I needed in online, you know, how to
Yeah.
create the online business
Hmm.
too. Um, because it makes no sense, but my why is so big because I've looked at it so much. It's not, yes, of course I want a business and I want to heal the world, but it actually all comes down to the picture I showed you of my mother.
Sure.
Like if
Yeah.
I could have saved her, if I knew now what I knew then, so I will always share my story. I will
Hmm.
share it on as many podcasts as I can. I will always fit it in because I know there's a possibility of someone in the audience saying, oh my God, if she lost that and is doing well, there's hope for me, you know? And so the same business, I want to learn everything I can so I can reach everybody. I can't save my mother, but I can save someone else. And I think it's healthy. I don't know. I think that's healthy.
No, I
I
think it's
used to
very
want
healthy.
to, I used to want to save everyone in the audience, and I realized that was putting a lot of pressure on me. So now when I perform, it's like if I can open one person's heart to have more self-love for the choices that they've made,
Hmm.
that they think, you know, they're you know, punishing them, then I've done my job.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that's kind of acting in general. I mean, in a lot of ways, is if you can reach and open up somebody's heart, or get them to think about something differently, or give them awareness, or just to touch them, however that, whatever, however that resonates with them, that's a good
Yeah,
thing. And that's kind of, I mean, that's what you're doing. So
that's what I loved with Skin Deep, because that character was someone who, was giving love a chance again,
yeah,
so bringing
yeah,
ourselves to those roles.
yeah, that is a good show because she had like self-esteem issues and so forth. Yeah,
Not at all like
and
me.
the pressures of society and what we consider to be norms for society and so forth, and so much of that's shifting. So do you have a favorite role? Obviously your one woman show, which is My Brooklyn Hamlet, right, is obviously your favorite role.
My
Besides
favorite
that, do you have another favorite role
that
that
I've
you have
played.
enjoyed, or great performance that you've really enjoyed?
I really love Skin Deep, to
Yeah.
say. I love the two shows I've done with you. And then I had been doing my show for so long before that. There was a part I played in New York in the Scream. It wasn't a big part, but it was so great.
Mhm.
Like I have this too. That's wrong.
What is this? What is the? Oh, and the Scream. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah,
Edward Monk's The
right.
Scream.
Yeah.
There was a play. I was in a theater company in New York where I played the mistress. It was just a super cool role.
Hmm.
Um, Personal favorites. I'm so just stuck on my show right now. Sounds
Hmm.
awful, but I've just been doing that for so long. I
Yeah.
mean, I've done film, things like that were great. I have a really interesting story. It's not like a published, produced show, but I was studying at the Beverly Hills Playhouse in LA, and Jeffrey Tambor was a teacher, and I was doing a scene from The Apartment,
Hmm.
Shirley MacLaine,
Hmm.
and my scene partner was not, like, he was vacant. He wasn't there. I don't know what he was thinking. He wasn't showing up. And so Jeffrey jumped on stage with me to act out the character, and it was so amazing. Like, the experience of acting at that level and just having someone so present there really informs my acting too,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It is nice when you have a work with a pro. When you work
Oh
with
my
somebody
God,
and you
it
go,
was
"Oh,
so
this is so
amazing.
nice." Yes, the
It was
give and
so
take
amazing.
and just all of it. Yeah.
I
That's
almost got cat on a hot tin roof, but I would have gotten it, but I got when I lived in Arizona, but I had a trip planned to South Africa, and I just decided I need to go to South Africa instead.
yeah.
That would have been an amazing role.
Where did you go in South Africa?
We went to we went to Cape Town.
Hmm.
Um this was a long time ago. We went to Cape
Yeah.
Town. What's the other
Was
big?
this well, Elizabeth Elizabethtown or something, or and then there's Durban, and then there's Johannesburg, and those are more up.
We just went
Uh
through. We went
yeah.
through, but we did go to. We went to, on a safari. It was so amazing. It was really
Hmm.
amazing. And a friend of ours, my ex and I, was from South Africa, so she kind of led the tour. And then my ex's mother had like 6 people. It was really
Yeah.
that was wonderful. One
Yeah.
of my favorite trips.
I've been there too. So
Oh,
yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I was in
wow.
Cape Town. I spent like 4 days in Cape Town just knocking around. So yeah, it was
Mm,
fun. There was
that's beautiful.
the only thing with me was like being warned several times, don't go there, don't go there, don't go
Oh, well,
there,
because it's supposed to
because of
be, or back, also dangerous.
yeah,
It
yeah,
wasn't though. I
yeah,
mean, we kind of just stayed with where we were going. It was
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. I felt fine. I mean, we were fine. We knocked around and had a good time. So, but we stayed in
I
this little boutique hotel for 4 days. It was fun.
Yeah, we were in a boutique hotel. It was so nice. Oh, I also performed my show in London. That was amazing.
Where
That
did
was
you
a
do
dream
that?
come true. It was at the, oh my God, New End New End's Theater. Oh God, I can't remember
Hmm.
now. That was 2010. That
Yeah,
was a dream come true, because I have like 5 soliloquies from Hamlet in my very New York story, and to
yeah.
do Shakespeare in London, and then I also did it in Leeds. Oh, that was a dream come true.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. Did
Yeah.
you how many tell me some of the places you've been, because you mentioned South Africa, and now you've mentioned London. What are some other places you've traveled to?
With my show or just
No,
traveling?
just with just you
One of my
or
favorite
both.
trips was Israel. I
Yeah.
just, oh, that was amazing. Of
Mhm.
course, I went the year there was an intifada. So, what was good about it is there were no tourists. I mean, it was dangerous, but I got to see everything. Go to Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and someone
Wow.
like me, who I'm very spiritual, but I was not brought up religious, although I was born Jewish. It was amazing to see the Bible stories come to life going to the places. That was
Yeah.
amazing. Greece was amazing. That was part of that trip. That was great.
Wow.
Um, I traveled to the south of France. I was very, very, very lucky. My mom died, 95, but we traveled a lot together. We were best friends, and I would like we were codependent also. But seeing how she died so young, like for me, we were, because I got to spend so much time with her. And then with my show, we did it in San Miguel de Allende, which is so beautiful in Mexico. Oh my God, that was a wonderful performance. That was with Divas in Danger. I've performed My Brooklyn Hamlet and Divas in Danger actually in Albuquerque, Taos, Santa Fe, Oklahoma. I always kind of put that in, all over California, San Francisco, obviously Hollywood, LA, Michigan, Virginia. There's probably a few more. There's like 10 states, but then several places in certain states. It's been
Yeah.
a wonderful opportunity. And like I said, for audiences as diverse as women prisoners, youth at risk, spiritual communities, high schools, colleges, grad schools, a peace center.
Hmm.
Um, it's been wonderful.
Yeah. No,
That's why I
that's
keep coming back to it. I stop for a few years and then something sparks in me because I feel fulfilled. And then I
yeah.
talk to someone and I realize I want to not only express myself, but I can help people. Oh, I performed my show in Vienna, Austria for my brother's theater. Well, there was a big Jewish theater festival there, which was pretty incredible because my brother and I didn't speak for 6 years after what happened in our family, which is the story for another time. But he produced my show at this conference when he was running the Jewish Theater of Vienna. And up until that time, and that was 2007, my show really is like the gift that keeps on giving. It's based on my life story. So why would I stop doing it? But up until that time, I felt like there was still a part of me that's like, I need to express myself. I want to do this, kind of like outer wanting something from outside of me. And then I did the show at my brother's theater. His son was in the audience, and we did the Q&A together, and something healed with that painting of my mother in the back of us, and something healed at a very deep level. It was art and life coming together. And when I returned to the States, I felt like I no longer had to do the show for me. It was a gift. It's
Yeah.
obviously I get paid for it and I get to express myself, but it shifted. I no longer had to do it for me anymore,
Yeah.
like for
Yeah.
something egoic.
Yeah. Do you was there a language barrier there?
And everybody in Austria speaks English.
Right. Yeah. I just heard
So
you
no.
speak German earlier, so that was just the title. You don't speak German, do you?
Oh, that play in college, Unter Weiden zum Terror, was in German. I had hardly any lines. I was a naked dead body that got killed, I think, in one of the scenes. But, that was real acting. I do not. They used to make fun with me back then.
Oh
They would
yeah.
tell me things meant certain things, and I thought, oh, I know a little Spanish, I know a little French, I'll be able to pick up German, and no, that was all English. It was a very big. It was the biggest theater festival and conference of its kind, Jewish theater
Yeah.
festival and
Yeah.
conference of its kind in Vienna since World War II. So I was
Wow.
really proud of my brother, and
Yeah.
I got a lot of work from that. The London trip came from someone seeing me perform there.
Wow.
And then I performed in New York City because of that, and
Mhm.
Brooklyn. Yeah.
That's great. Must be like extremely gratifying that, to create something. I have a little sense of this too, because I created an act about, like 93, 90, started really doing the real act in 95. But I mean, and it took me all over the world. I worked on cruise ships. I, traveled around all across the United States, around
Was
the,
that your own?
Yes. Yeah. It was
Oh,
something I created, and it had a little bit of everything. It had a little magic, had a little comedy, had a little dancing, had a little this,
oh,
so it was a
wow.
whole thing, but
I
same
knew
kind
you
of
did the
thing
other
where,
show about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, being able to create something from nothing and have it blossom like it has, that's very gratifying. So again, congratulating you. So
Thank
what
you.
advice would you give somebody who's like wanting to write a show, who's like, I want to tell my story, but I have no idea how to start. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do?
I'd say take my class because I'm teaching classes all the time online, and then,
You have a
well, and
website
there's
too. You have
too.
a website for this. What is your website? Just to say it and then we'll
Well,
put it
I'll
up.
tell you my main website, which is being redone because it
That's fine.
began in the beginning of time.
Sure.
Forgivenessandfreedom.com. I
Okay.
do post what's new on there.
Can someone go there if they're like interested in this and they want to learn? They want to learn this. They want to learn, like, hey, I have a story to tell, but I don't know what to do. This is the
I think
website to
on
go to.
I think on the start here page that's there. I probably have other pages. I just don't have them right here with me
Okay,
that I
that's
can give
fine.
them to
Yeah,
you.
but that's
Um,
your main site.
yes, and they can always just get me on Facebook, Brenda Adelman. Like, always send me a message, post.
Okay.
I'm always
Okay.
there. That's my
Okay.
main social media, and that is my main site. Well, they'll see a lot of that, and I have opt-ins there, like free opt-ins. I have one that's called "Tell Your Story, Heal Your Life, Create More Wealth," and that's actually forgivenessandfreedom.com/free training.
Mm-hmm.
That has a lot of tools in how to
Okay.
get started. I would say this. I actually, every one of my clients, the same exercise. It's to find your story, a condensed version of it, and maybe people have heard something like this because I'm not going to do that to you. Is you know, choose at least. This is not the full exercise, but because this is one of the main problems people have when they come to me. They're like, I just have too many stories. I don't know what to share, what's going to be relevant. And that's good to think about it that way. First of all, it has to be juicy for you. If it's not juicy for you, it's not juicy for the audience. So you don't want to put details in that this is like a whole episode. Because people either overwrite or they underwrite. So when people are writing their own story, they either so well that they say one thing and they assume people know what they're talking about, and they don't. So in that case, I would say to the person, you need to overwrite all the details, get them out of your head onto the page, and then read them to someone to get feedback or do an edit, and then you carve your story out of there. The other people share so much about, and I did this, these are all mistakes I've made and been reviewed on and stuff like that in the beginning, is they tell too much. And then I went to the store, and then Uncle Bob was there, and then I got this, and then I went over to the other room, and then I saw that person, and there's too many characters, like the audience can't follow, and there's things we don't care about so it's a craft. Writing
Yeah.
your story is a craft, but it
Right.
needs to be juicy. Even though I teach people how to make money with what they're doing, sharing their story, you kind of have to have that in the back of your mind so that you're telling a really good story, but then you got to let it go because that kills the muse. You can't be thinking, okay, I'm going to write for this audience. You
Right.
have to write
Yeah.
from your heart,
Yeah.
and what I do. So I would say you have to have at least 3 of those stories. I do an exercise where it's more than that. So you look at the theme of your life. What's the theme of your life? Because that's going to keep you writing when it's work. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is actually takes time and you have to be dedicated to this. But if you're working with the theme of you're going to be more interested in continuing to do the work because you're unfolding as you're writing the story. So I would say that. And then the healing part, if you have big trauma, if you've had loss, sometimes it's just a small thing. Like, it appears like a small thing. You don't have a dramatic thing like me, but you were really lonely when you grew up. That's beautiful too, if you're willing to be vulnerable, willing
Right.
to be, people see who you are, but you also want to do the inner work, which is self-love, inner child's work, things like that, so that you don't feel bad as you're doing your writing.
Yeah. Yeah. That is
Like
great
little,
stuff.
like a
Yeah.
little bit of feeling bad
That
is
is,
actually
and
good, and
yeah.
then you process it.
Yeah,
So.
and I know that's a very broad stroke, and I know you're trying not to delve too deep and give too much away. First of all, because you teach this, but just to give people an idea of like the kind of stuff that you do, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and I've
Um,
been doing 6-week classes.
Right.
virtual. So
Yeah. Yeah. And you work one-on-one with people and so forth. I know that. And that's been very valuable for a lot of your clients because I've seen the
yeah,
results. So
big results.
yeah, big results. And I'm a big believer too. I've dealt with some companies that, sort of sponsored things that I've been creatively in charge of. And it's very difficult because there's that separation of, money and, finances and profit versus creativity. And I always believe that, like, if you have a really good idea, the money will come. That if you just make that the best it can be, that it will become successful, that you won't have to worry about. You don't need to push, you don't need to add giveaways, you don't need to add this and cheapen it by doing all this extra stuff to get people to come to your door, so to speak. And just do your thing, just make that pure, just work on that. Because I know people like wanted, like, oh well, it's not enough, it needs to be. It's like, no, just tell your story, just do your thing. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Just tell your story. I even tell
Yeah.
that to people because, now I'm also doing showcases where I was doing them in person and now I'm doing them virtually. I'm like, it's nice to have the blocking. It's nice to have a set. But if you are just honest, completely honest in your storytelling, that's enough.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not about the bells and whistles. But that said, you want to make the absolute best. And of course, as a beginner, like I know when I was a beginner, I was better than I was. It's only pros that think, oh, we have more work to do. Beginners always think they're better. So it's like, even if you think it's so good, and this is something I tell people, sometimes people come in and they just think they're so this or they're so that. And it's like, you might be, but you're not going to get paid for that. There's a whole nother level of craft that goes into people are going to pay money to listen to your story.
Yeah. 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 I've seen your set pieces, but I mean, the impression I get is that you could pretty much do your show on a bare stage if you had to. I mean,
Yes. Well,
yeah, it's like,
basically,
don't need all that stuff.
it's just that. I mean, I have two versions of the show
Right.
because I've done the show for like, I think 6 weeks was no, even longer than that. I've done the show for, let's say, 6 weeks at a time. And if I've done it at a theater where it's in one place, I can get fancy with the set. But what I learned is I want to be able to travel all over the place. Well, what can I take away? And that's where I just basically have the painting. I have it as a giclée, so I
Hmm.
can roll it up. That's my main set piece. I have a picture of my dad, another set piece. So when I
Hmm.
go to I make it easy, I take away all the bells and whistles and stuff
Sure.
so that I can perform on a stage in between, like a main stage set. If a theater has a weekend, I can just come on, pull the curtains a little, and then just have my picture of my mother and my father, or just one of them, because I've definitely arrived places where, like, oh, the lights are out, the sound is
Right.
out. I
Yeah.
thought I'd have a whole show and a
Yep.
slideshow, and it's not working. So
Yep. I've been
going
there. It's like,
going with
well, here's your space. Oh, okay. That's near the kitchen. It's like waiters going. It's like, all
and
right, can I set
that's
up over
where
there?
and that's where experience comes
Yeah.
into play. And
Yeah.
that's why I love being a mentor, because like all the things that because
Yeah.
you performed, you have so much
Yeah.
experience, like all the things that can go wrong that I know I did wrong on
Yeah.
stage. Like
Yeah.
I
It's
want to
from
also.
doing gigs. And my brother, he was playing in bands, when he was 15. He was playing in
Oh,
nightclubs at 16 and had to get permission. Parents had to come down and say, it's okay, he's here. I mean, he's playing in nightclubs at
that's
16. But
cool.
so I have so many stories from him because he's 7, 8 years older than I am. I forget. And
Yeah.
so he's told me all sorts of stuff about club owners trying to, you know, screw him out of money and this and
Oh,
that, and
oh, that
make sure you
too.
get paid here and this,
Oh
all
yeah,
sorts of stuff. So
contracts
yeah,
as
yeah, yeah,
well. That's why I love
yeah,
being a mentor, because oh boy, have I been people have tried to take money from
yeah.
me, or like they throw something in the contract where it takes
Hmm.
money away from you, and they're like,
Right.
oh yeah, just sign it. No, you got to
Yeah.
look at that stuff.
Yep. Yep. Or the extra stuff. That's what I like. It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
oh, I didn't know I was talking for an hour after this. That what?
exactly.
Okay, I thought I was just coming
Or
in doing my 30-minute show.
yeah,
So
or I'm gonna film it and send it and keep it as a
yeah.
training
Whoa.
for all my people, but I'm not paying you anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Excuse me. So, would you ever let anybody do your show? Like, could you publish your work and
I
let
really
someone
have
do
thought
that?
about it. I've
Because
thought about it.
as good as it is, as successful as it's been, it's like, oh gosh, does this feel like I could let go of it? That's another step, I guess, right?
Yeah, I've thought about it, and I think I would. knew how to do that, and I would, because it's such a good one person, like for someone to act it out,
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is definitely something I've thought
Yeah.
about. I've also thought about doing a film version where there's a couple of characters, and I feel like right now, if I ever did that, I'd play the mother role. Like
Right.
that would be super exciting
Yeah.
for me, like
Yeah.
in a weird way. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I see that. I can totally see that. It's cool. So who are some influences you talked about going to see a lot of stuff on Broadway and just seeing a lot of theater when you were really young? Do you have someone that is a huge influence for you? And a lot of actors like go, oh, I really like this person, or I
I've
get a
been
lot of inspiration.
Well, I've been lucky as far as like, I also had another teacher in LA, Alfred Molina, who's like a fantastic actor. So I feel like I've mixed with some really really amazing actors. I love English actors so
Hmm.
much. What comes to mind is like Kate Winslet. Oh my,
Hmm.
everything she does is so amazing. Um,
Yeah, I think she's very underrated as an actress.
you think she's underrated?
I
I don't
think
know.
she's on. Yeah, I think a lot of people on. I think the general public. I think people in the know give her more credit, but I think generally people just look at her and go, "Oh, Titanic," and
Oh
and
God,
that's all they think of. And I'm like, even her performance in Titanic,
I know.
layered and very well
What
done.
was that movie she did with the young boy in Nazi German? Oh, so good.
Is that the reader?
Yeah. Phew,
Is that the
my
reader?
God.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
yeah, she's
that was
she's
so good.
very talented, I think, and I just think people underrate her. But yeah, I like her too. Yeah.
Yeah, Kate. I mean,
Who was the
there's
other
just
one? I'm sorry. Did you say
Kate
somebody else?
Blanchett.
Kate
Kate
Blanchett?
Blanchett.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
they're just amazing actors. Like
Hmm.
they can just morph into anything, but they're also so transparent. Like
Hmm.
there's such vulnerability. Um, who else? I haven't seen anything for so long right now. Australian actors too. Like I'm not so much into like the big formulaic movies or anything like that, even though there are some really good actors with that. Like I love a Robert Downey Jr. and stuff like
Hmm.
that. He's so cool. Um, Top of my head, obviously there's the old schoolers like you know, um, Robert De Niro,
Hmm.
Al Pacino,
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
I just love those.
I heard a story about Al Pacino about they always think of him as being, and it just spoke to, I don't think it's really derogatory, but it just spoke to the idea of just actors in general that we never stop. You would think Al Pacino's like, hey, I'm Al Pacino, I'm good, I don't have to worry. But somebody told me a story about even, yeah, this is probably 10 years ago, but doing a performance and him asking, like, what did you think? Was that okay? Was that good? And
Wow.
still having that insecurity about his performance, and it's like, wow,
Wow.
that's
There's
that's
some inner work to be done there.
yeah. So it's like, oh well, that's interesting. I mean, it's not
That is
you know
so
I
interesting because don't you
it's
feel
not
as an actor, I know when I do really well. I know when I'm off a little. You know what I'm saying? So I would think that he really knows
right.
when he's
Yeah.
doing great.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So that's not, nobody else is coming to mind right now because I
Yeah.
haven't watched anything for a long
Yeah.
time. But there are a lot of really wonderful actors. I mean, I love Jennifer Lawrence too. I
Hmm.
love her. I think she's so amazing too.
Yeah. She's another one. I think she's done a lot of really big blockbuster films, because that's what they do. But then her smaller stuff is
Well,
she is good.
that first film she broke out in,
Yeah.
where she played the Southern that her father was killed in. I can't remember what it was.
I
That was
forget.
that
Yeah.
was the first like big one. Oh my
Yeah.
God, it was so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that dichotomy of doing the blockbusters and then doing the little films. So, yeah. Where do you see your show going from here? What do you see happening in the next few years, or do you know?
In the virtual world, I seriously was like, I'm going to go back on the road in That's what I
Yeah.
was thinking,
Yeah.
and then COVID happened, and I'm like,
Sure.
oh,
Yeah.
I guess I'm not. I did a virtual like 20 to 30 minute version since COVID, and it was
Hmm.
very successful. I literally
Yeah.
just did it on here on my desk. I went back and forth. I put the picture of my father up. I took out all the scenes, about dancing in Brooklyn in the
Right.
1980s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Uh, and I did the first part of the show. So and then I was asked to speak somewhere, so I did just a couple of minutes of the show when I was filmed. So that was kind of cool. I actually think I'm going to need to do a virtual production of it. I think I've helped clients with that already. Like one of my
Yeah.
clients just got a show into the
Yeah.
Rochester Fringe Festival. So I'm directing a lot of people, and I'm like, I think I need to figure out how to direct
Yeah.
my show virtually
Right.
to
Yeah.
actually do the whole thing. I don't know quite how to do that yet.
I wonder if you just filmed it on stage, you know, and just
Yeah.
didn't you haven't you filmed it before? Haven't you gotten it captured before?
Well, I have actually, but that will never be seen.
Ah,
Years ago, yeah, it's what I pulled my trailer
it
from.
was an early one is why. Is it an
Uh,
early version?
yeah, it's an earlier
Yeah.
version. I don't have one now, so and I won't put something like so for the full. I mean, it's fine. I used to sell like a DVD when I go to places, and it was really good quality.
Hmm.
It was like a studio quality camera, and there were two cameras, so that was really cool. So yeah, I would have to refilm, but I'm thinking of it. I guess I could rent out a theater and just do it because I did just see a festival online where they did broadcast it from a
Hmm.
theater, and it looked
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to have a version in my home office too. Like I like that too. Like it's
Yeah.
two different. So
It
yeah,
is.
maybe it would pay for me to rent out a theater and figure out how to get it directed and filmed how I would like it for not on an arm and a leg. Yeah.
Yeah. What are some other
Or
theaters? Oh, I'm
I could
sorry.
just, well, if I could figure it out, I could just freaking enter a fringe festival and then they film it.
Yes. No, absolutely. Yeah. I think a lot of opportunities are going to open up when things start to open up here. What are some theaters? I know you've worked at Scripps Ranch. What are some other theaters you've worked in town? And I know that you probably have been on the road a lot since you've been here. So I know you've not really been like all around town.
No, I really
But
haven't done that much here. I just did Lamplighters. I did my
mhm.
show at Lamplighters.
Right.
I did the two shows at Scripps Ranch,
Hmm.
and then I really focused on my online business
Yeah.
and developing that.
Yeah.
I feel like there was some acting in there. Like I've done little commercials and stuff like that. I feel
Hmm.
like there was some more acting in there. I say that because I get a little like I need to act when I don't act.
Right.
You know, but it
Yeah.
could be with my show because I was touring, yeah, for a year and
Yeah.
a half.
Yeah. You were on the road a lot. I mean, you were kind of taking a break when you did Sunset Park and Skin Deep, and those happened fairly like back to back. I mean, it was like
They did.
they
It
were
happened.
one was in one season and one was in the next. So it was like, but it was right back to back almost. So yeah.
Right. Which was really cool, but it was fitting that into my online business and then being able to tour with my show, which
Right.
was so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, in addition to when I did, I remember it being a lifesaver getting cast in that first show because I was going through a divorce and it was like, at least for 4 hours a day, I can act. And basically, we were fighting as brother and sisters.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was a comedy. So it was like,
Yes.
and I can get all this out on stage. It
Yeah.
was so
Yeah. We had a good time backstage and on. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
it
Yeah.
was
So,
great.
so do you have any advice for like a young actress starting? Forget about the idea of doing a one woman show or one man show,
Oh, I love
any
that.
of that. What's that?
I mean, I think I love the one person show so much because
Yes,
you create
but
your own.
just in general, what advice would you give to a young person that's starting out?
I would say believe in yourself and
Yeah.
know that you are giving a gift to the people who are casting you, and that just do your best. Don't be like, choose me, pick me. You really know who you are, and that how unique you are is what will get you cast. And be yourself, because I feel like when I started acting way back, in New York or LA, one of the things that was not getting me cast was that I was trying to be someone else. I was trying to be girl next door. Not girl next door, I was trying to, wear the clothes that I thought would fit the character versus, I'm not saying abandon what they say the character is, but I'm saying put you into it, because that's when I started getting cast in things.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
when I was me.
Yeah. And that's I mean, I think that's really good advice just in general for, all acting, because that's always the way is it's the person that comes in and is doing their own thing, but they're still honoring the text and they're honoring the vision to a certain degree. But you look at them and you go, wow, that's really interesting. Or they come at it a completely different way,
Well,
which
isn't
is
that
always good.
that story with Dustin Hoffman
Oh, of
getting,
course. Yeah. In
what is that?
audition. Right.
What was the
It was in well, Michael Shurtleff wrote it, and I think it's Mike Nichols was casting, and they were casting
what was the
for
movie though? I
The
can't think of the name.
Graduate. The
Right, The Graduate.
Graduate.
Didn't they want like a Robert Redford type and
No,
Dustin
they
Hoffman?
wanted a Jimmy Stewart type. They wanted somebody really tall and lanky because he was going to be a basketball player. And Dustin
Oh,
Hoffman came in and still was so good that they went, well, let's change it to a track star.
yeah.
And
So
so they made
that's
him a
it.
track
Be
star.
that good, and that's what you were saying before. It's like if you're doing
Yeah.
a show, you're doing whatever. Be that good that
Yes.
yeah, that good that people want to work with you, because that's what happens even with the one person show. If you're that good, if you're excellent, there are always people that want to work with you. There are people that want to pay you. There are people that want to help you, because there's not that much excellence in this world, I don't
Yeah.
think. No.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. I think people get into the biz for the wrong reasons most of the time, and cream rises. I mean, you stick it out, and I always tell actors whenever I've taught classes, I was like, just be good. I mean, and
Exactly.
just in all encompassing, that means like showing up on time and,
Yeah,
being professional, all that kind of stuff, but also just being good. And that doesn't mean looking at the text 20 minutes before you're going into the audition. And that's not part of being good. It's like
right.
really do your work, do your job. If you do your job and you do your best and you're good, somebody somewhere, if you have something to say, somebody somewhere is going to go, that's the guy. And I don't want anybody else. I want that guy or I want that gal. And it always
Right.
happens, and then
Yeah.
you're off and
You have to
running.
be good and you have to be out there.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to
There's
put
a lot
yourself
of,
out there.
there's a lot of dreamers
Yeah.
because they're afraid of rejection
Yes. And
or hard work.
yeah, that's a very real thing. But yes, putting yourself out there. I always admire people. I don't go to tons of auditions. I always admire these people who like go to everything. And I'm like, well,
I know.
I'm not a 45-year-old woman, so I'm not going to that audition, but I should. So, uh,
You could play one though.
good. I have. I've done it in a comedy.
Yeah.
Nobody
Oh,
took it seriously. Only in a comedy. But that's very interesting. And you are just continuing with your one-woman show, and I think it's fantastic.
by the way, people can see the 2-minute trailer of my show on forgivenessandfreedom.com.
Okay, and we're going to put that link up on the below.
Yeah.
We'll put it in the links.
So hopefully I'm going to make my show virtual. That's the next thing.
That's the next step. That sounds exciting. Do you have anything to add or anything else that you want to impart to us?
No, just people can contact me if they have any questions, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, it's been a real pleasure talking with you. And thank you so much for your time and coming on. And I hope people do go and check this out. And hopefully we'll get to see the full show again and be on stage again. And if you want to learn how to do your own show or just learn about forgiveness and healing, you're learning from someone who has a master's degree. So you're getting good advice. And we've been talking with Brenda Adelman, and this has been Stage Perspective. And thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see you next time.